بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبع سنته إلى يوم الدين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome again to another episode of your weekly Islamic chat show, Live by Islam. I'm your host Ismail Bullock, and inshallah today we want to talk about something that we could all do with, which is being productivity. And it may be something that some of you wouldn't expect to necessarily talk about, because sometimes we tend to have certain topics. We think that Islam is only about dhikr and about certain things, but Islam is very, as we know, a complete way of life. And no doubt in anything, whether it's being in religious aspects or in your daily life, you need to be productive. You need productivity. So to discuss that with me, inshallah, is brother Ustad Muhammad Ibn Hanbal. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakallah khair for coming on.
Wa iyaakum.
And what made me think of this topic today was that I saw a short clip of yours that was talking about this particular hadith. So I thought this would be a great topic to, elaborate more detail than that very, very beneficial but short clip on productivity and why we should be productive in Islam, and we shouldn't be lazy. I mean, one of the du'as we make in the adhkar, talks about أعوذ بك من الكسل, that Allah, I seek refuge in you from being lazy.
And I think if you complete that, you ask Allah to save you from al-ajz wal-kasal. And if you think about that, al-ajz is the inability to do something.
And of course that's part of the hadith, وَلَا تَعْجَزْ,
That's we'll get there.
Subhanallah.
We'll get there inshallah. But al-ajz is the inability to do something. And al-kasal, or laziness, is having the ability to do it but not carrying out, not sort of fulfilling that or carrying it out. So really that encompasses, like the ulama said about this particular hadith, with this particular dua that you referenced, they said it encompasses every kind of evil. Because if you think about it, everything, and I mean the hadith is longer than that, but that particular part, every single thing that you intend to do today, the only two things that can ever stop you in terms of your personal sort of situation is either al-ajz or kasal. Either you're unable to actually do it, or you were able to do it but you couldn't bring yourself, and you couldn't have the energy to be able to, or the ability to be able to carry it out. So that tells us how important this area of productivity is, and achieving our goals are in Islam. And not just, as we said, not just in the religion, although definitely being productive in the religion is the most important thing, because it's about getting as much out of this short life as is possible. And subhanAllah, a side topic, when you read the biographies of the early generations, you realize that anyone who talks about productivity in this day and age doesn't know what they're talking about. And subhanAllah, you read about people who used to go through just book after book after book after book, and every moment of their time was, even to the point, some of them, when they would go to the bathroom, when they were walking to the bathroom, they would have one of their children read for them, and the child would keep on reading for them while, as they were sort of going into the bathroom, and then when they would come out of the bathroom, they continue on reading for them, and on, down to every footstep was full of benefit. But not just the religion, also the dunya. And from that is the hadith, إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَتَبَ الْإِحْسَانَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. Indeed, Allah has written excellence in every single thing. So it's not the case that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just wants us to be productive and excellent and and excel in the religion. Allah Azza wa Jal, even to the point of sacrificing an animal for food, even to the point of fighting in an army, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these dunya-based things, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as they mentioned in the hadith, Allah Azza wa Jal wants us to do them with excellence. Allah wants us to do them with excellence. So even the dunya, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to achieve excellence in it. And I think, though, we should say that with the disclaimer that the religion is more important, because sometimes when you hear people talk about productivity, the only thing they talk about is productivity in the dunya, and that's it. And they tell you, we as Muslims need to be better scientists, and we need to be, better mathematicians, and we need to be better doctors, and we need to be better engineers. But before all of that, we need to be better Muslims. You know, it's not just the case that we need those things, but those things we need productivity in too. So all about getting that.
I think there needs to be a balance as well, because we can see some people are being very productive in the religion, but in other aspects of their daily work life, where they're being paid a salary to do a job, or their family life, there is literally hardly any productivity. They're lacking. Or the opposite, you have people who are so productive in their businesses and in their studies, in their dunya studies and what have you, and they literally leave nothing for Islam. So there's got to be, we have to be productive overall, like you mentioned. First and foremost, the religion, but at the same time, there is nothing wrong, whereas you're being as productive as you can, religious-wise, that you can also be productive in the dunya, and it needs to be a balance, you know.
Yeah, and I remember that Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, it's narrated from him, that if he met a young man that didn't have a profession, that wasn't, that didn't have a skill, he would be considered to be low in his eyes. Even if he was deeply religious, if he didn't have a skill through which he earned a living, and Umar would consider him to be someone, low in his eyes. So that doesn't mean you have to go get a degree. Go and get a degree might not be the best use of or the most productive use of your time, but it does mean that you need to have a balance between the dunya and akhirah. And the hadith of, the well-known hadith relating to Hanzala, which involves Hanzala and Abu Bakr radiallahu anhuma, وَلَكِنْ يَا حَنْظَلَ سَاعَةٌ وَسَاعَةٌ. But oh Hanzala, there is a time for this and there is a time for that. And so part of productivity is assigning the right time to do the right thing. And that's what they'll tell you. And if people talk about productivity in a dunya-based sense, and some non-Muslims talk about it, even they talk about it being choosing to do the right thing at the right time. So if I, for example, have an emergency on my hands, in a dunya-based sense, I have an emergency on my hands and I have something non-urgent, and I just go ahead and do that non-urgent thing incredibly well, I would not be considered to be productive, because I've given my, and I've been productive. I've been productive in that one thing, but my priorities are off. So that's all part of it. There is a time for this and a time for that, and it's the right time for the right one. So if you're being really productive in your dunya-based work while everyone else is praying, that in Islam is not considered to be productivity. But if you are being productive in the dunya-based stuff when people should be doing that, and being productive in the religious-based stuff when people should be doing that, and your balance is for the religion over the dunya, and you give the religion, it's always your priority, then that's where you are, you've got the right balance of your priorities and your time, to start with.
I mean, that reminds me, maybe you can elaborate on that. When you mentioned about the person and having the trade or having the skill, it kind of reminded me of, you get people who focus on the religion and they don't make any effort to really go out and get a job sometimes, maybe in certain Western countries as well, where they have the benefits or the social welfare system, which they can fall back on. And it reminds me of the time that those people came from Yemen, I believe it was for Hajj, and they had come with no money and no provisions, and they said, we have just come, and they were relying on the people in reality, and they'd said, we've come here, we've made Tawakkul of Allah, and they were reprimanded for that. And maybe you can fill in the details of that story, but they were reprimanded for taking that attitude of, we're not going to bring any money with us, and Bismillah, because the reality is they'll end up taking off handouts and help from the people.
Yeah, and I think there's a bit of nuance about, people talk about, having Islam as a career. I'm not in favor of that at all, and I think it has a lot of negatives in it. It can work for some people in some circumstances, providing that that's not their main intention. And their intention is just that they can't find a way to use up all their time except through that. It's a little bit nuanced, but in general, we want to develop our trust in Allah through having the means to do so, because having the means is an integral part of trusting in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so tawakkul is, or the sort of the opposite of tawakkul, is where you simply don't do anything that is in your power and say, I trust in Allah. And that brings no success, because Allah has not decreed for things to happen without causes in general. And the general sunnah of Allah in the world is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed things to happen by causes that make them happen. And we have been told to go out and get those causes. They're not the They're not the reason why things happen, because Allah is the reason why things happen. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed and placed these things on the earth, so you get married to have children, and you get a job to earn money, and so on.
And that reminds me of what the Prophet ﷺ told the man to tie the camel and then rely upon Allah.
And Allah Azza wa Jalla tells us in the Quran, فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. When you have made a firm decision, and al-azam requires firm action. It's not something that you just, like decided. If you say, azamt, I have made something, I firmly decided to do this. I've firmly taken a decision that I'm going to do this. That means you've got actions in your mind, you've got a roadmap out there, and while doing that, you trust upon Allah Azza wa Jal. And so tawakkul is a balance. What I usually explain people when I'm explaining tawakkul to people, I usually say that tawakkul is to do everything that is in your ability to do, and to leave what you can't control or what is not in your ability to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you do that, then you have tawakkul. I mean, that's slightly somewhat off the topic, but it does relate to this issue of being productive. You have to realize that our productivity, it comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's where we're different from the non-Muslims. If you read non-Muslim books on productivity, they write a lot of things, and some of it is beneficial in terms of tips and ways to organize your day and stuff like that. But the one major thing they're missing is they're just completely missing the concept that your productivity and your ability to achieve your goals is completely dependent upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And therefore your need to turn to Allah and to make dua to Him and to ask His help and to have isti'ana, seeking help from Allah Azza wa Jal, is absolutely essential. Without that, you cannot be productive. You can give a false pretense of it, like in terms of I have my day really well organized on a piece of paper, but the reality is you achieving what you want out of that piece of paper and actually getting to your goal in the end is dependent upon your trust in Allah, and it's dependent upon seeking help from Him. And that brings me to that hadith I think you were alluding to earlier on. Just quote a part of the hadith that is the most relevant part to what we want to talk about, and that is the statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam: "Ihris ala ma yanfa'uka wasta'in billah wa la ta'jiz." The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Ihris, be keen, seek out, go after whatever will benefit you." And this ma yanfa'uk, it covers the dunya, the things of the dunya and the things of the religion. If something's going to benefit you and it's halal for you, and especially in the religion, but even in the dunya, if it's halal for you, if it's good for you, it's going to benefit you, ihris ala ma yanfa'uk. Be keen to get it. Go out, go and look and search and study and realize those things that are going to benefit you and get hold of them and do them. And that includes in the religion. You find that it's beneficial. You learn that it's beneficial to sit in the masjid after Fajr until sunrise, and then when the sun is remembering Allah, and then when the sun has risen, you pray 2 rak'ah. You've learned this is beneficial for you. Ihris alayh, and be keen, be dedicated to actually go out and get what's going to benefit you. And the same in the dunya. You find that a particular skill is going to help you to get a halal job, that's going to keep you away from riba, going to keep you away from working in companies that have issues with them and whatever. Ihris alayh, and go and get it, go and look for it. So go and look for what will benefit you. Wasta'in billah, and here's the link of tawakkul, like we said. Seek the help of Allah, because ultimately you can't be productive without the help of Allah Azza wa Jal. And so like we said, you have to go and look for and search for and research and study in the religion and in the worldly life those things that are going to benefit you. And not just follow, especially even the worldly life, we see people just follow like sheep. My friend did a degree in XYZ, so I'm doing a degree in XYZ. And now I'm planning to do a master's and then a doctorate in XYZ. Okay, what are you going to do after that? Allahu Alam. There's no sort of emphasis on the benefit, on the fa'idah. It's just on copying somebody else. So it's what's going to work for me? What's going to get me the job that I want? What's going to get me the skill that's going to take me to the next level, that's halal, that's pleasing to Allah Azza wa Jal? Because the dunya should serve you in your religion. It shouldn't be you shouldn't be a servant to the dunya. It should be your servant, and it should help you to further yourself in your religion. Look for what will help you, and then put your trust in Allah Azza wa Jal, because you won't be able to achieve without the help of Allah. ask Allah to help you to get it. And that not only is a religious benefit, that you want something in the dunya, you're asking Allah to help you, so you're actually gaining reward and worship of Allah by asking Him to help you for something in the dunya. When you say, oh Allah, help my business to be a success, because you believe this business is going to benefit you, it's going to keep you away from haram, it's going to free up your time for worship, and so on and so forth, ask Allah to help you to do it. Because that not only affirms your tawakkul, that I've done what I can and I want Allah to help me, but it also gives you rewards for things that are worldly things. Seek the help of Allah. But even the religious stuff, same thing. You know, you want to get up for tahajjud because you realize tahajjud is going to benefit you. Try your best, ihris. Do your best, be keen for it. Wasta'in billah. Ask Allah's help. Seek Allah's help to be able to do it. Wala ta'jiz. And don't become from those people who become almost defeatist. You know, they say, I'm not going to be able to do it, there's no way for me to do it.
They're really pessimistic.
You know, yeah, pessimism and defeatism. I'm, you know, there's no way to achieve, there's no point me asking. I'm never going to be from those people who pray 5 times a day. I'm never going to be from those people who pray tahajjud.
So it's safe to say that definitely as Muslims, we are supposed to be people of optimism.
Yeah,
definitely.
Optimism with seeking the help of Allah. So not blind optimism as in, you know, I just have to, you know, inshallah today, you know,
I don't even need to ask Allah for anything. Everything will just work out absolutely fine.
So it's more like, let me ask Allah, but knowing that Allah can do everything gives you a huge amount of optimism. And then to conclude the hadith, and don't say about anything that if only I had done this, it would have been like this. But say قَدَّرَ اللَّهُ وَمَا شَاءَ فَعَلْ. But say it's the decree of Allah and He does what He wants. Because saying if only opens the door to the actions of the shaitan. And that's the reality, if only. And that doesn't mean if, like every if. Like if it rains today, I'll take an umbrella. This is like the if only. You know, this like, oh, if only I had gone left instead of right, I wouldn't have had a car crash.
Yeah.
You know, this is not true. It denies the qadr of Allah, and it doesn't bring you any increase in iman. It just makes you sit there thinking, oh, if only I'd made that decision, I would have won that contract. If only I'd done that course, I would have got that job. Say qaddar Allah wa ma sha'a fa'al, or say qadarullahi wa ma sha'a fa'al. 2 narrations you can say. You can say qaddar Allahu wa ma sha'a fa'al, or qadarullahi wa ma sha'a fa'al. It's the decree of Allah and He does what He wants, or Allah has decreed and He does what He wants. And that gives you that confidence that, look, whatever's in the past, that's what Allah decreed for me as being best for me at that time. I'm a person, to be productive, I have to look at now, I have to look at the future. But looking at the past, the only thing I have in my relation with the past is قَدَّرَ اللَّهُ وَمَا شَاءَ فَعَلْ, and as much tawbah as and istighfar I can make, which is an action in the present. But my only real looking at the past is just to say that that was the decree of Allah and He did what He wanted. He did what was best for me at that time. But otherwise, I'm looking to the future. I'm looking to what I can do today, what can I do tomorrow, not what didn't I do yesterday, except from the point of a tawbah and an istighfar, of saying, okay, today what I can do is repent for what I did yesterday and then do X, Y, Z in a different way. And you know, that's, I find, just a beautiful introduction to the topic. And otherwise there are loads of resources and people who've written about productivity from the dunya and the deen perspective. But I think that we just learned that our religion has more to it than just, praying in a masjid. It has everything that a person needs, including how to be productive in the dunya.
Jazakallah khair. We'll come to the end of today's episode. Jazakallah khair for coming in. And may Allah reward the viewers as well for tuning in. And hopefully this will be a bit of a boost for all of us, inshallah, to be more productive, firstly in the deen, inshallah, and in general, and to be optimistic in things in life after seeking the help, firstly from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And until next time, inshallah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.